name. We went to this bar that was underground that you chose your drink of choice by pictures, like just colors of pictures or the way the picture had been painted. You didn't know what was in it. I don't even think we got the name, did we? We
I'm
just
not
chose.
sure if we got the name afterwards, but yeah, they had all these different like abstract, like little like artworks with different like patterns and colors, and you choose your favorite one, and then they make you a drink based off of your like color aura.
Yeah, it was really fun. Ruthie's saying today I'm extra dirty vodka martini with many olives. Oh, I mean, it is, Tequila Tuesday or whatever Tuesday you want it to be. So if you need to have a little pick me up, then do what you got to do.
I love how you just said it's Tequila Tuesday on a Thursday.
Or that. I mean, it's the same letter.
Starts
So
with a T.
exactly. Well,
It's
if
5 o'clock somewhere.
exactly, or 4 o'clock, or 3. I mean, there's no bad time of the day to have a little treat, is what I'm saying. I mean, we could talk about drinks for ages, but that is not why we are here. We are here to learn about a new tool. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. I'm Valentina. I am an event strategist, producer, and the founder of Beyond the Event. And I'm here to help Talkbase host this series, which I have planned out for the entire year. Every month, we're going to be coming and learning about a new tool. Well, not new tool, a tool that you may or may not be using. You may not have had time to really learn how to use it, or maybe it's been on the back of your mind of like, oh yeah, I really think that might be good for helping to build your community, but you just haven't had the time, the resources, the motivation, all those kind of things. We've got you covered with these events, and hopefully by the end of this event, you're going to go away with not only a new community friend, because that is very important here at Talkbase, but some new skills so that you can literally go away after the event and be like, I know exactly how and what I'm going to do to make things easier, more productive, and allow you to spend more time in your communities with your members. And today, this particular tool has been requested by so many people, so we had to get it in pretty quickly, and that is Zapier, the automation tool which hopefully is going to make your life easier. And I have someone very special here with me today. I call him the Zap Man. He hates it, but I love that. I love that little title. Andy, welcome. How are you?
Good, thank you, Valentina. And yes, I do hate that title, but thank you for always using it in all the socials and in front of everyone.
You're very welcome. So Andy has been using Zapier for years, so he was the best person to bring in to walk you through, show you basically what Zapier can do, and use some real world examples to show you how you can create your first Zap. And answer all of your questions. So I'm not going to take up any more of his time. Andy, if you want to take it away, I will be here. If you want to ask Andy a question, pop it into the chat. And obviously feel free to chat away in amongst the chat as well. And let's learn about Zapier. Here we go.
Yeah, so if you kill the screen share, I will put my screen on and I will get going. I can see it's all good to go. Let's pop it off. So you'll notice straight away, if everyone can see what I can see, that it's very orange. So that's the first thing to mention about Zapier, is it is a very bright orange. So when you're using it, you can't get confused with any other systems. So the whole point of Zapier is making automation work for everyone. The small intro of what I'm going to be doing. I'm Andy. I'm a project manager. I don't work in a technical capacity, I suppose, but I have a technical background. So it does help with the Zapier stuff. But I do believe that Zapier is a really good, simple tool for people to get going with. And you can't really go wrong with using it from the start. So definitely a Zap enthusiast. But as my former role of an integration lead, I was pretty much a super user of Zapier. So I've worked with bigger solutions with different providers, but Zapier was the easiest tool that I had, helping our community strategy and helping us build some of the more mundane tasks. So today what I'm going to do is give you a brief run through of Zapier and what it does and how it maybe can benefit you. go through some examples. As I said, very Saturday morning kitchen TV show of some of the ones that I've got up my sleeve. And then more importantly, I'm available for any questions, anything that's raised during the session. I've left it very much high level of what I've got prepared, so I'm able to actually build them on the fly. They're very simple to use. And with Zapier's kind of new link to some AI, they're actually really, really simple to build as well. So I'm going to do a very short presentation in hindsight, and then be able to show you how it works and how it all hangs together. So this is kind of Zapier's thing. It's a great day to automate your something. Now that you can see all the things going across on the icon, they pretty much say they can do anything, and it's free to sign up as well for a trial and so from a like a new user. We'll go through the pricing toward the end, but as you can see with all the terms, leads and marketing campaigns and customer support, it really is something that can connect any aspect of your business. And from a community strategy point, that can be really useful, because as I've learned from my experience with community leaders and builders, you don't just run the community necessarily. There's all sorts of different things you have to do to ensure your community runs fine. So who was Zapier? Zapier were founded in 2011. They went remote pre-pandemic, which I think is pretty good. It got them ahead of the game. They've got a big 300 to 500 staff across 38 countries. They were formed by these three guys in the US. They've got 300 official app partners. They connect to 6,000 different types of app connection, and they specialize in the flow of data between different tools and services. And the main thing that they specialize in is people coming with no code experience. So they allow people who are entry level to the tech side of things a really basic look at connecting systems up together. So for you, if you're finding tasks tedious, maybe work is long-winded or repetitive feelings daily, Zapier could be the tool for you to kind of open up some of your time to free up to do more important things. So could Zapier be the answer? Well, that leads us into the Zaps. So if I just move this taskbar out the way, if I can get it out the way. This is the Zapier website, which gives you an example of the kind of top 100 apps that they use. So you'll see all sorts of things: Google Sheets, Gmail, MailChimp, Google Drive, Facebook Leads, Notion. There's all sorts of different Zapier things in here as well. Delay by Zapier, Paths by Zapier is really a link to things you can do inside the tool. But you'll see through the list of things that they've got as their top 100 providers, Trello, Typeform. There's all sorts of apps that you may use day to day and week to week that Zapier can use to connect to another one of your systems. And that's to be the key thing. Again, you load more and you can load hundreds: Discord, Stripe, ActiveCampaign, Asana, even YouTube. You can link all the data between the systems quite comfortably. So that's all well and good and all nice to kind of talk about. If I just get rid of that onto my other screen. But what does that really mean? So this is Zapier. This is a free plan that I've got that I'm showing today. You can see it's taken my Gravatar from my Gravatar profile on the top right. That's me sitting on Brooklyn Bridge, I think, in the corner, if anyone wanted to know that. You basically are faced with a create interface. There's tables, chatbots, canvases. A lot of stuff's in beta. You've got your Zap history and the apps. But what we're really interested in is having a look at the Zaps and the few that I've got created. So as you can see, I've got my own folder. You can do shared and you can do personal. It's up to you. If you've got a team you work with, you'll want to do a shared folder and you'll want to have a Zap for this, a Zap for that, Zap for this. You may segment them into folders. To keep it basic, I've just created a sample folder and I've got some of these that are kind of already and there. Some of these are a bit older, weeks ago, and some of them are newer ones that I've kind of edited today. Now, the key thing is you can see they're all turned off. There's no charge for me at the moment because I've got them all turned off. You'll find out later in the plans and all the costings what happens, but it's important to know that when you are automating events, you do just need to be careful you don't end up raising the bill quite comfortably. If you've got something that's pulling data from one system to the other and you're on a per Zap plan, which they are, you just need to be careful you know what's running and when it's not. If you go on holiday for a week and it's pulling user data down and updating every 60 seconds, whether the user accesses a platform or whatever the example may be, you do just want to make sure that you don't go through your Zap limit and then your credit card or your company card gets absolutely slammed because of all the pointless information you've sent from system A to system B. But to start simple, I think I'll dive into one of the simpler ones I've got going. So this is an example of webhook data that goes into Google Sheets. This is the Zap interface where you configure and set up all your Zaps. What I've done is I've got a third-party system which fires a webhook into Zapier, and that's an app event that I've triggered. So I've typed it in to code it in Zapier to pick up the webhook and to catch it. What I do from there is I trigger, but I don't need a trigger because I just get straight to test. And I have correctly set it up, which means that my query string, which is very basic, has got my name, surname, location, specialism, and job role. It's just a very basic example of a generic bit of API information that comes from a system. This could be any system that has an external API. Now, what I've done in this example is I've configured it to create a spreadsheet row every time my webhook is received. My webhook actually relates to users signing up to my community platform. So what actually happens is I have configured it so every time that happens, it creates a line on my spreadsheet. And what this would allow me to do is it maybe allow me to configure it. So if everyone, say in the UK region, signed up, I could have them and spat into a Google Sheet for my UK community manager to then act as a marketing list, the distribution list, or just so they're aware of who's accessing the platform. It's very, very specifically designed by me to be very basic. I could go into realms of detail about custom fields, information you're taking into the Zap to then configure out into another system. But it's just a very easy way of showing that when the webhook comes out, I'm pushing the webhook from my third-party system into my Google Sheet. And then if I click on the word test, I retest the step, it should, all going well, create a third line on the sheet. So what I would do is I would turn it on. It would run every time it picks up the automation, picks up the API, and then I don't need to touch this sheet. I would come at the end of the day and have a look at all the people that are signed up to, whatever. So that's an example of my first one, and perhaps a very simple Zap. Now, if we go into here in a bit more detail, we could go for a Slack notification. So what I've done with this one is I've not actually configured it because I don't have the correct admin permissions on my Slack channel to set it up. However, if you have the right access, what this is doing is it's taking my event in Eventbrite, which is up here. It's acknowledging that I've got someone who's signed up. So I've called for the new attendee registered. I'm not looking at the new event. I'm looking at the attendee registration. And then every time my attendee registers, so I say for this meeting here, we've currently got 19 people on the call. I would have had 18 entries, including myself, 19. And that would have generated, if I needed it to, 19 lines on a specific Slack channel. And when you're inside the specific Zap setup, you can see it says connect Zap and app and event. The app and event I've chosen is to use app Slack and event send channel message. You could add reminder, create a channel, invite the users to the channel. If they're in Slack, you can invite them to the channel, send direct message, send private channel message. As you can see, it really does depend on your user case. And you can do it both ways. It's probably a good time to jump back out of the Zaps and to go back to the top level. What you're witnessing here is you're witnessing trigger events and action-based decisions. So my trigger is Eventbrite. In this scenario, my trigger in my last Zap was an API call to trigger the Google Sheet being updated. It's really important that you're thinking about, I think, Zaps and Zapier in a simple way. It is designed to keep it simple, but the real success of it is keeping an eye on what you're automating and what you're doing, but having that business logic and having that kind of real understanding of what you're trying to do. You don't need to be an experienced coder to know I want to send the attendee information from Eventbrite to a Slack channel. It doesn't require you to be, some kind of coding guru. It just requires you to know the information about what you're storing in Eventbrite, what account you're using in Eventbrite, and how that kind of spits into Slack. If I dive into the Eventbrite specific stuff now, you can see I've configured with my Eventbrite account, which is my email. And you can see I've triggered the trigger, which has got my organization against Eventbrite again. I've queried the event status of live, so make sure it's a live event. And also I've picked the specific event. I've just done this as a test, but I can imagine you have, if you're using Eventbrite, many events. So you could have one for this, one for that, one for that. You could have rules where you build them all in the same place, but you are able to select the event. So when you've selected the event, you get the option to test. And what this has done is it's pulled the one attendee I have, and it gives all that information, costs, Eventbrite fee, the gross income, there's all that kind of tax implications. We've got the URL, we've got the ticket number, we've got the quantity, I've got their email, name, last name, I've got all sorts of information. I can choose to map that to the Slack message or map it to any system. So it is just really useful data that Eventbrite is spitting out. And it really is as simple as, mapping it from system to system. So if my Slack's connected, which I'll show you in another Zap, I am actually actively mapping data from one system to another using Zapier. So that's easy to example in the HubSpot. Let's go for, HubSpot to Notion. I think it was this one. Let's have a look at this one. So this is one of the more specific ones I've got. This isn't using HubSpot, but it shows that you don't only have to do one step. You can choose to get lots of detailed information from your Zaps and to do lots of triggered logic. So this Zap is called Andrew Test Post. However, what it's doing, I can explain in a bit more relevant information. This is catching a random hook from an API call, which in my example was from my community platform. I was setting an if clause, so to only continue if name is Valentina, or location is this, or date of birth is this, or, hobby is this, interest is this, subscription status is this. I was creating a row in a spreadsheet and then setting a path. I was clearly setting a path for A and B. A would be to add them to a subscriber list in a third-party system, which was Drip. And B was to write them into a marketing tool to ask them to subscribe. So what we were doing here is we had Drip as our CRM, or our tool that we used at the center of our technology. We were getting people into our community app that we ran off the Drip solution, which was, a valid thing to do. But what we wanted to do is encourage people that we already had in Drip into the community platform, but then to ensure that the subscribers were being reflected in Drip. So what I was actively doing here was creating a secondary, closing the loop off when you have different platforms holding your customer or your community data. It's often something that comes up, where you 100% have logic built in, where it's not always clear what should happen. It might be that you have lots of different subscribers who are accessing your community platform for the first time, and you want to keep them updated on Drip. But it also could be that they're new people to you completely, and they've accessed the community first, and you want to actively encourage them to sign up to plan A, plan B, plan C, or whatever you want to sign them up to. So I was able to configure the Zap from here. Now, if we dive back into another example of a Zap, what it could be used for you is to sync to your CRM, like HubSpot. So what I've got here is I've got a new attendee register in Eventbrite, and it creates the contact in HubSpot. So what happens is when I trigger this here, I'm able to create a contact. So what that's doing is it's building your CRM for the contact. So it's allowing your CRM to have all the information around who is in your attendees for your Eventbrite event. Now, the event's good, but the event is a singular thing. There's different events, there's future reasons you want to reach out to someone in your community. So if you are using HubSpot, you want the contact information to access them for marketing, to speak to them about future events, and to organize them for various different things in the community. So what this account action actually did was allowed me to store all of my information from my new attendees and map that into HubSpot. Now, you'll notice HubSpot carries a lot of information. It's a big CRM tool and allows us to do a lot of data holding inside the system. So you do have to do a degree of mapping. So when I'm in the action stage, I can see all these properties I can map. Obviously, I've mapped the email because we need the email for uniquely identifying the client on HubSpot. But there's all this stuff. Now, what this looks like to the naked eye is just a lot of information. But actually what this is doing is it's exposing what is in the HubSpot data. So if we dip over to HubSpot for a second, all these fields are part of the view all properties. So what the Zap is doing is recognizing all those fields and allowing you to map. So it's basically, as we said before, it's just how you connect the Eventbrite data to the HubSpot data. HubSpot's a really good example. If HubSpot is a trigger, you may actually choose to use HubSpot's own integration to do the mapping because it sends the API calls independently and it links with other systems. But if you've got some logic where you want to write some ifs and some filters, or you've got some things you want to change within the system, it is very, very poignant for you to understand that something like Zapier to pat the logic onto a plan and to design the setup out is something that you should consider. So you might think, oh, these are all well and good. These are all ones that have already been made. How do you create them? Is it difficult to get where you got to? Well, HubSpot is a particular detailed tool, but actually Zapier itself has made it much easier recently. So if you go into the new Zap, this is how most of the Zaps start. They've actually got a beta AI. So I would go, what do I want to do today? I want to create a Trello card from my new attendee in Eventbrite. And obviously say I can't spell when I'm under pressure, so I have to use my right click there to make sure it's all going to work. And let's just see what the AI does. It says, hey, Andy, thanks, Copilot. Eventbrite trigger, create card in Trello. And I go, that sounds exactly what I was going to build. I was going to use the trigger and I was going to create a card in Trello. So I just click add steps and it's done. Obviously, I've got to configure Eventbrite for the right account. So I have to go through as I normally do, choose my account, which was me, which is that one, and then continue. And then you want the organization, which again will be my name because I've set it up that way. And I'll choose my event, which is the one event I've got in there, which is Zapier the Talk. And then I would be testing the trigger. So I test that, it comes out. And then I just am in a position where I've got all my attendee information, and then I'm happy with all the data that I'm collecting in Eventbrite. I continue with the selected record and I do Trello. Now, what I do in Trello is the same thing. You choose the action. So what I want to do in Trello, do I want to add an attachment, add to checklist, add label, archive, close board, copy board, create board? What I want to do is create a card on my specific board in this circumstance. It may be just to track a high priority attendee, or to just have a specific view. What it does allow me to do, as you can see, it allows all sorts of different things within inside the parameters of what it's trying to do. So not just benefiting you in automating your life and automating your world, you do have the opportunity to do lots of different things, from labels, archive, close boards. So you're not just automating and making people who are inside your community's life easier. You can actually migrate and automate your own work, whether that's to open up a board, close a board, create a board, whatever. It doesn't really matter what you're trying to do. It's just, as I said at the start, if you've got something that's mundane or something that's repetitive and you're trying to link data between systems, Zapier could be the answer for you. So I suppose at this point, instead of going through, let's save that draft because that's an easy one to keep. I wanted to just go over where we were, what people are saying about Zapier. So the overriding feeling about Zapier, I think, sums up into these three things. So it's decent, easy to use automation platform. Pricing is definitely higher, but that's because it's easiest and biggest and has got most integrations. A few bugs every now and then, but most of the Zaps run fine. Super user-friendly, very convenient, helps workflows, automation powerhouse, integrates with everything you can think of. Zapier is tough to beat when it comes to automating the integrations between your various productivity and business apps. You can integrate Gmail, Slack, receive Slack notification, etc., etc., etc. Best of all, creating these integrations is a snap. And I think you've seen that from what I've done. But as we've kind of touched on, how much does it cost? So what I've done is, you can see here, it's free for individuals, and you get 100 tasks a month, which is the amount of zaps that run within the task. The unlimited zaps, so it says obviously no matter what plan you choose, you can create as many zaps as your task limit allows. But obviously, if you're running hundreds a day, you're going to go up the tasks and go into the budgets. So you get the free plan, which is kind of for you to trial out and then to proof of concept. I would say that if you're using it seriously and working as part of your business function, you will go pretty close to the starter, the professional, and even when the team and the company and the plans that go up. Obviously, I'm currently on the free plan, which gives me 100 tasks. None of them have actually run in production. They're all in test phase. So actually my task limit suddenly at the moment is 0. But I've only at the moment, as you can see, also got 2-step zaps, and I've got no code editing. So if you needed to build complex workflows with some coding assistance, you wouldn't be able to do it on the free plan. But I hope from what you can see here, it gives you an idea of what it is really nice for Zapier is when you're at a basic level for your automation, it really boots you into that middle layer, which can keep you going for a long, long, long time. It is something that when you get to a certain stage, and if you're spending hundreds of dollars a month on Zapier, you probably want to think about what you're doing from an integration standpoint and understand whether all the zaps are definitely needed and whether you need a bigger provider with your integrations. If you're running thousands of zap a day, it may be fine, but you're obviously going to end up paying for it per user and paying for the zap, sorry. But what you want to ensure is that you're not at a size, if we got the magic money pot with all the money in the world, you may see Zapier as an interim solution for something. And in the future, you may choose to have a, slightly more full-on solution that gives you all what you need in your community. So in terms of Zapier, I think that's probably enough talking for me. What I'll do is I'll stop my share before it kills me. I think it says, I don't know, there's a less than a minute warning on the meeting, Valentina. I don't know if that's your meeting.
Yes, so you actually finished at the perfect time. We're having a few difficulties with Zoom. So Tiffany has added a new Zoom link into the chat, and I think this is probably the perfect time for everyone to click on that and go to the other event so we can continue this without messing up any of the content. We apologize.
Sorry about that, everyone.
It's all right. I think Andy knew. That's why he stopped right then. So everyone check the chat. We'll meet you in the other event and we will continue this event in just a few minutes.